You can change your entire life by just changing one habit. Subscribe to our podcast and make listening a habit.
Change your mindset, manifest your dream life, and live magically with Rise and Align.
Raising the frequency one episode at a time.
Everything is always working out for us.
Hello and welcome back to the Rise and Align podcast, where we talk about all things high vibrational. We are your hosts. My name is Haley.
And I'm Demi, and today we are talking about hormone regulation. So for any women out there who have ever wondered maybe why your menstrual cramps are really bad, why you feel stressed out, or how you could improve some of those things, this episode is definitely for you. So there are a ton of kind of like quote unquote normal things that will regulate your hormones, and those are like eating a healthy diet. That really has to include healthy fats. I know that, a lot of us were taught as children that fat is bad, but healthy fats like avocados and coconut oil, things like that, omega-3 fatty acids, our body needs that in order to be able to regulate our hormones, as well as cruciferous vegetables. So like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, things like that. We need those in order to balance our hormones and to maintain a healthy diet. Also, like, obviously exercising regularly. We both do yoga all the time. I do a little bit of like harder ones or Pilates pretty regularly too, because I think it's important to raise your heart rate and get your blood pumping, sweat a little, and keep your body healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think that the key to this as women, if you're a woman listening to this, or if you're a man listening to it, like keep this in mind for the women around you, is syncing these habits with your cycle. That is actually the key to hormone regulation, is going along with your cycle and tweaking your habits a little bit to align with the different phases of your cycle. I think that's so important, and it's crazy to think, but it's true. If you do certain things on certain parts of your cycle, it can actually have the opposite effect, even if it's healthy. So if you are exercising really hard or doing like HIIT workouts when you're menstruating, that can actually have a negative impact on your body that is going to cause your body to actually save your fat cells instead of the effects that you're actually going for. So it's super duper important to sync these habits up with your cycle and what aligns with that part of your cycle, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And certain foods and supplements are going to be way more helpful during certain times of the month. So directly before your period, you can see people joke about this all the time, is when women are kind of crabby, need extra sleep, and are probably craving dark chocolate. But if your body's craving something, it's actually because you need that thing. So listen to your body, really get in tune with yourself. I really love to track my cycle on my phone. There are a million different apps and there are tons of free ones and stuff like that, but I highly recommend doing that. If not, at the bare minimum, just marking down when you start and end your cycle so that you're kind of aware of when your body needs certain things, and don't kind of guilt trip yourself or force yourself to do more than you're able to do at that time of month right before you're about to menstruate. It is also totally okay to exercise during your period, but you just don't want to force yourself to do too much. I think that's balance is so key. Also, just getting enough sleep, having a regular sleep schedule is going to help you balance your hormones. We do have an episode on a nighttime routine. If you are a person who has a hard time sleeping soundly, that episode is for you. Make sure you check it out.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There's actually studies that show that women need more sleep than men. And I'm sure you need more sleep in different parts of your cycle. For example, the luteal phase, or when you're menstruating, you do need a little bit more sleep than, say, your partner if you're in a relationship. But that phase right before you are going on to your period, right before you're menstruating, is the luteal phase. And I've learned that so you have 4 phases of your cycle, and they kind of align with the seasons. So the luteal phase is kind of like fall. This is where you're going to kind of start slowing down. Your hormone levels are starting to kind of drop, and you are going to start being a little bit more maybe tired or a little less energetic, and this is when you're going to start wanting to transition from those like higher intensity workouts to something a little bit calmer. For example, like yoga, even Pilates, walking. And I love how you said that, it's really important to like listen to your body and, do what feels good for you. And I was actually listening to this woman. Her name is Alyssa, and she has written a really amazing book. It's called In the Flow, and it's FLO. And she is a nutritionist, and she's written multiple books on regulating your hormones and syncing with your cycles. And she talks a lot about how, a woman's cycle is approximately 28 days, where a man's is 24 hours. And that it requires a little bit more of that like flowing energy, like literally, because it is not a strict, this is how I am every single day. My schedule should be the same every single day. Absolutely not. It should be a little bit different every day. And it's just a little bit more feminine and a little bit more like energetic based on how you're feeling that day. And it's not about doing it perfect and right and following the rules like black and white, very masculine. It's not at all like that. So I think it's super important to like listen to your body, listen to what it needs. And I think that, within reason, if you are craving something, and not in like sugarness, like things that are not like real food. If you're craving something, like oftentimes your body needs nutrients from that. So I find that certain parts of the month, I like start craving eggs for some reason. I'm like, oh, I just really need to eat eggs. So there'll be like a few mornings in a row where I'm like making scrambled eggs or putting eggs on toast, and it just really satisfies something like deep inside of me.
I totally get that. That's so funny. I've never thought about that before, but I think I do crave eggs too, because there are certain mornings where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to make breakfast. It's going to be so good. And it is. It's so satisfying. Mm-hmm. That's hilarious. I never even connected that. So I am a makeup artist, and now, if you've been my client, just know that I am absolutely not judging you in any way, and I'm only sharing this for your benefit. I have had quite a few clients who have a ton of facial hair, especially just below their chin, and they need to shave it. And I think it probably causes some shame, and you probably hate doing that. That is from hormone imbalance. So if you are overweight, major factor. Now, it's interesting because this can go both ways. If your hormones are imbalanced, it can cause you weight gain. And if you are overweight, it can cause your hormones to be imbalanced. So it's so important to make sure that you are eating the right diet. They say that 80% of weight loss depends on your diet, and 20% depends on exercise. So making sure that you are eating the right foods, and I'm going to name quite a few supplements that you can also take to help balance your hormones. But also, it is and should be noted that progesterone and estrogen based birth controls are going to cause your hormones to be imbalanced, because you are taking synthetic hormones that are not being naturally produced by your body.
And you're interrupting your body's natural rhythm.
Yes, exactly. So I wish they would have taught us more of this in health class. I think everyone should be aware of these things. Like, I think we were not taught about the different cycles the different parts of our cycles as kids when we first started getting them. And that's so important. It can be life-changing to understand your body. And we definitely were not taught about the negative effects of birth control or hormones in general. And I just think that's something to bring up. So if you are struggling with weight gain and stress and mood disorder, you might want to look at your birth control. Just take it into consideration. You might say, well, Demi, I can't be off birth control. I get it. There are other options. And if you are tracking your cycle, you can at least know when it's safe to not use birth control versus when it isn't. You know, at least you can do that. But your health, it needs to come number one. Like how you feel is attracts everything in your reality. So
this is just kind of coming to me. I'm not a doctor, so you can do with what you will with this information. But I find that a lot of women get prescribed hormonal birth control to quote unquote fix things that are going on that are hormonal related.
Yes.
So if you're struggling with things like PCOS or heavy periods or things like that, you will get prescribed a synthetic hormonal birth control to try to fix that. And I think that some women do find some sort of relief from that, but in the long term, you are further dysregulating your hormones instead of bringing them back where they should be, which is what I believe the true solution is.
Yes, 100%. So speaking from experience on that, I was on hormonal birth control for so many years, like more than 10 years straight, which is so unhealthy, but I didn't know any better. And when I got off of it, it took a really long time to start to regulate my cycle again. Once I did, however, I can tell you that it lasted way less long. Like being on a pill, it would be up to 7 days. Sometimes I would have bleeding throughout the entire month. Like it was so bad for my body. And when I got off of that, my cycle my periods became so much shorter. And although I can say that then I started to notice some symptoms that I didn't notice as much before. Now, birth control itself made me nauseous. So I would always have to take it at night because I would feel so sick to my stomach when I took it. It does make your body think that you're pregnant. So it actually can give you morning sickness. Now, when I got off of that, initially it just took like 2 years to regulate my cycle. And after that, I started feeling like nausea a day or two before I was going to get my period, and just kind of random different symptoms that I hadn't noticed before, or maybe a bit more heavy cramping. And I didn't understand like why that was because my menstruation cycle was so much shorter. When I started taking better care of my body, taking the right supplements, things like that, it's become way less of an issue. And now I feel way healthier than ever being on hormonal birth control. And again, you know, we're not doctors. This is not FDA approved. These statements are not FDA approved. You know, take it with a grain of salt, but definitely look into it because you're a woman and this is your body and this is your life and it's so important. And also, as a life coach, I've come across a ton of people who, especially nowadays, are having a hard time conceiving. That has everything to do with your hormone regulation and also with your mental health.
Yeah.
So, you know, managing stress, doing things that are going to make you feel better. We name them every episode of this podcast. Just listening to this podcast itself, I promise you, will help you feel better. But doing those things are so important because if you can regulate your hormones and become happy and less stressed out, and I want to say stress-free, but you know, no one's ever 100% stress-free. There's just life happens, you know, but if you can learn how to navigate life and not be so stressed out and kind of release those things that may have been weighing you down, you'll find that your body becomes much healthier, and it may be the key to conceiving. Again, not FDA approved, but I've seen it happen in people's lives, and I think it's so important to talk about that. Also, you know, staying away from crappy crap. Like they say if you eat a ton of added sugars, that's gonna give you hormone imbalance. If you drink a ton, it's gonna give you hormone imbalance. I really think that if you are consuming anything that affects your brain chemistry, it's going to make your hormones not regular. I think that's how it works.
I just have a couple things that I wanted to add to the birth control conversation. So I have heard about some studies regarding one, birth control actually can deplete your nutrients. So if you are on birth control, it can take a long time for you to rebuild up like the proper nutrients to then carry a child. So keep that in mind if you are like considering conceiving, say a couple years from now. Like, it might be a good time to start considering going off birth control, looking into alternatives, and just so your body is ready when you're ready for that. And then I've also read studies on how when you're taking birth control, it can impact how you feel, like the attraction you feel towards like people.
Yes.
So if you're on birth control, you might find men attractive. If you're a woman looking for a man, we'll say, you will find men attractive that you may not, see that way when you're not on birth control, which I just think is really interesting. I think, biologically, we will seek people that we will make potentially like good babies with. Like, we can sense that in people. I think that we can like literally energetically sense that in people, and there's like studies on that. And so that kind of gets disrupted when you are on birth control as well, which I just think is so crazy.
Oh my God. All right. To be more specific, I've also read studies on this. So when you're on hormonal birth control, you're actually attracted to men with lower testosterone, less manly men, literally. And it goes for the men as well, because men are attracted to pheromones as well as, visually and whatever. They are actually attracted to pheromones and what you're giving off. And when you're on birth control, you're giving off a completely different thing, a different vibe entirely than when you're not. So more masculine men with higher testosterone will be attracted to you when you're not on birth control, and vice versa. You'll be more attracted to men with higher testosterone if you're not on birth control. Isn't that wild? Oh my God. It makes so much sense why I did what I did in the past. Or who. But no, so it's so serious. And why is this not common knowledge? It needs to be talked about. Okay, so apart from maintaining a healthy diet and exercising regularly, managing your stress levels, you can also take so many different supplements. Now, if you are aware that one hormone or another is imbalanced within you, and you can actually go to the doctor and get that tested, you can take different things, because not every herbal supplement is going to have the same effect, but you can look into them, look them up, and they'll tell you kind of what each individual one does. Ashwagandha is a great one to take. It also lowers your stress level. It has a ton of health benefits. It can also raise your libido. Vitamin D. I think we all just need more vitamin D. Seriously, especially up north, we do not see the sun enough. But that can help hormone regulation, as well as probiotics. Obviously, having a healthy gut, it changes your mental health entirely. Magnesium helps you sleep more, is going to help reduce stress. Black cohosh is one that I didn't know and I don't know much about, but it is a plant. It's an herbal supplement, and it's meant to help regulate your hormones, as well as omega-3 fatty acids, which I think I did kind of mention. Maca, which I've been hearing a ton about lately, can also help you regulate your hormones and has a ton of different health effects. Another one I did know about was red raspberry leaf. If you drink red raspberry leaf tea, that's really great for you. I think you're meant to do it right before your menstruation cycle. And it helps regulate your cycle. So instead of taking hormones to regulate your cycle, you can just drink tea. Shilajit is another one. I love Shilajit. It has so many nutrients in it. It's so good for you. It also helps hormone regulation. It's like this sap kind of stuff, and you put it in tea or something and drink it, and that's that. I never really tasted it when I put it in my tea too. It smells kind of smoky itself, but trust me, it's worth it. It's not bad at all. A couple more that I don't know much about, but are meant to be really effective in balancing your hormones are evening primrose oil and dong quai and vitex, or it's also called the chaste tree berry. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Chaste, chaste tree berry. But those apparently all help a ton with hormone regulation. And I think it's just good to look into those things and see what your body needs. I wouldn't say take all of these things. I'd say start with maybe one thing, and just add that into your diet and see how it affects you, see how it feels, and see if that can kind of help relieve some of the symptoms that you may be suffering from.
Yeah. And cortisol it can become dysregulated when you are highly stressed out, you have adrenal fatigue. And so that can kind of disrupt everything if your cortisol's out of whack. And that can happen if you drink a lot of caffeine, if you're not getting if your sleep cycle is not, in a good place. And a good thing to take if you are having cortisol problems is moringa. So that's a really good option. In addition to that, I kind of wanted to quickly go over like the 4 phases of your cycle, and then I do have like when might be the best time to take some of this stuff actually too. So a lot of people like to say that the menstrual phase is the first phase of your cycle. I don't quite align with that because it's almost like, you're completing a cycle. When you're bleeding, you're releasing. It's kind of like the ending of a cycle, whereas the ovulation or the follicular phase is kind of like the new moon. It's kind of like the new beginning, like the fresh start, like after you bleed. And I kind of like to think of that as like the first phase in the cycle, and it's kind of considered like the spring season. So what's interesting about these different phases too is that if you think about like what you would want to eat during spring, that is kind of similar to what you want to eat in this phase of the cycle. So keep that in mind. But this is a time where you're going to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more ready to plan and things like that. So food at this time is going to be like fresh, vibrant fruits and vegetables, things that contain high amounts of vitamin C to support cell regeneration, thinking about things that are going to help with liver detox, to help move through hormones that have kind of already cycled through your body. So broccoli, papaya, bell pepper, sweet potato, tomato, sprouts, and probiotics. This is a good time for probiotics. And this is also a good time when you want to incorporate some of those healthy fats into your diet as well to support estrogen levels. At this time is a good time to start doing more of those strength training exercises, cardio-based exercises, and things like that, fermented foods, eggs, etc. Then we move into the ovulation phase, which is going to be more of like that summer. This is where you are going to have more energy, which is very reflective in real life as well. Like in summer, we tend to have more energy. We tend to be doing more things. We tend to be more social. So this is what you are likely going to experience when you are in your ovulation phase. It's fairly short. It's 3 to 5 days. And this is also the fertile window when you can conceive and get pregnant, which I have learned in talking and hearing from different women, like they didn't know that you could only get pregnant in that window of time.
Why is that not common knowledge?
That is so important to know.
Yeah.
So important to know. So if you're tracking your cycle, that is when you can conceive. And technically, a couple days before your ovulation phase 2, like, that you want to really be mindful in that time. At this time as well, people, if they're tracking their cycle, they can take their temperature right when they wake up in the morning. And when you are going to ovulate, your temperature is going to be a little bit higher. So that is a good sign to, a good sign that you're ovulating if you're wanting to track that as well. Some foods that are good during the ovulation phase is things like raw almonds, eggs, avocado, things that are good for the liver, high fiber foods, avocado, eggs, beets, berries, leafy greens, sweet potato, lentils, chickpeas, quinoa. This is also still a good time to do those high intensity workouts, cardio, strength training, power yoga, things like that. And this is kind of like the full moon period because it's like high energy.
Also, if you do want to track your ovulation, there's a special kind of thermometer that you can get, and you do it first thing in the morning, like before you even get out of bed, first thing in the morning, and then it'll be really accurate. I just wanted to add that.
Yes, and some people, you have like the Aura ring. If you have it, you probably already know that it has that feature, but it really helps with the cycle tracking, and I think that it can monitor your temperature as well.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
So that's really cool. And then we move into the luteal phase. This is more of the autumn phase. We kind of talked about this a little bit already. It's typically 10 to 14 days, the longest part of your cycle. This is, your hormones begin to start dropping. Your energy begins to start to drop a little bit. Kind of talked about that already. And if you have estrogen dominance, like you're not getting rid of excess estrogen in your body, like earlier in the cycle, it's important to eat liver foods that are good for your liver and helpful for detoxing some of this excess estrogen. So if you move into the cycle and you have estrogen dominance, you will experience quote unquote PMS symptoms. That is kind of why people tend to experience PMS. So keep that in mind. This is a good time to reduce your alcohol intake. Again, eat foods that are high in fiber. And this is also a good time to like organize and declutter, whether it's energetically or literally in your home.
Get rid of what's no longer serving you.
Yeah. Yes. So food. Oh
my God, wait, did you just turn on your microphone?
No, it's been on. This is a good time to implement magnesium into your diet, whether you eat foods that are high in magnesium or there are supplements and things that you can take that contain magnesium. This is going to help release excess fluid, and that can help reduce bloating as you move into your menstrual cycle. And this, again, is when you're going to want to start doing like low intensity strength training, light cardio, lighter flowing yoga, Pilates, things like that. You'll also want to eat good proteins, fats, things like nuts, seeds, whole grains, again, avocados, bananas, the dark chocolate, yogurt, and spinach.
There are also lots of videos on the internet for period yoga. Just type it in. I swear, game changer.
Yes. My mission is to make a flow for that too. So, so then lastly, we move into the menstruation cycle. This is approximately 3 to 7 days, depending on your own cycle. This is kind of the winter season. So your hormones are declining. Your energy is at the lowest typically. And this is similar to the winter season. This is when you're going to be in a little bit more of like a hibernation mode. You are going to want to do a lot of like self-care. I like to do a lot of cozy lighting during this time. Movie nights, like instead of like a big date night, it's like a good time to have like a night in. And in terms of food, you're going to want to continue with the magnesium. Again, that's going to help with like fluid retention, bloating. And then you want to kind of replenish the lost iron that you're losing with the blood loss. So eating iron-rich foods like red meat, and then things like beets, oysters, mushrooms, beans, lentils, and then a lot of antioxidants. So cranberries, blueberries, figs, plums, and then, lightening up the exercise. So if you don't feel up to it, you don't feel up to it. But I do think that it's good to get a little bit of movement, whether you're just like stretching or going for a little bit of a walk. But yeah, this is when I'll do like a very light yoga flow. It's typically recommended not to do any inversions at this time. And like a yogi squat is like a really good like primal position to like help promote the blood flow. And then at this time, over exercising can put a strain on your body. So you're actually going to stimulate your adrenals. And then this is kind of that scenario where you can push your body into fat storage mode. So that is kind of why you probably shouldn't exercise too heavily at this time, because it can kind of have the opposite effect than you're hoping for.
Yeah, and stress you out too much. But at the same time, working out during your period can help your cramps be less intense. So, it's okay, but don't do anything too crazy.
Yeah. Exactly. And some cramp remedies that are more natural. You can take bark tea, chamomile, ginger, hibiscus, or mugwort. Those are all good things that I recommend looking into if you want a more natural way to support your body at that time.
I also love a hot water bag. I don't know if that's what they're called. A hot water bottle?
Yeah.
A hot water bottle?
Yeah.
$7 on Amazon. Go get it.
Also, okay, I haven't used it in a long time because I haven't had to be out in the world when I'm on my period. But Jordan, if you're watching, thank you for this. She had recommended me, a friend of mine, these, I think they're like heating little patches or something that you can actually put in your underwear, and it just warms that area where you get cramps, and it's literally so soothing. I love it.
The best.
So I do love that. And yeah, I think that's a good general breakdown of the cycle, the phases. And like I said earlier, if you are interested in learning more details about that and learning this more science behind that, I really recommend the book In the Flow by Alyssa VT. She has some really, really amazing knowledge, and she's been working in the industry for a really long time. And it's just so important and to learn this stuff. And it's so amazing to have other people out there who are making this knowledge more readily available, because you were talking about, they literally don't teach you this in school. All the things that I think that we need to know that we're talking about on this podcast and sharing with you guys are the building blocks of a successful, healthy, long life. And I'm just so grateful that we're able to share this information with you. But I'm also just disappointed that we don't grow up learning this stuff.
It should be common knowledge. So we really hope that you love this episode and find it helpful and you feel a little healthier after this. On that note, we normally pull a card. Today, we decided to do something a little different. So both of us like to do this thing where if we get a new exciting book, we just kind of flip through the pages, and whatever page we land on is a message we feel is divinely meant for us. So today I am pulling from a Neville Goddard book. Now this includes actually 10 of his books. So we'll see what shows up for us.
Well, she is pulling the page. I have one quote that I want to share with you guys as well, that this also came from Alyssa VT, and it just kind of sums up this episode pretty well, I think. And it says, "I am designed to feel good, and when something doesn't feel good, it's not working for my biology." And I think that that's just a reminder of making sure that you're listening to what feels good and really tapping into what feels good for you, because your body is very smart and it knows what it needs.
Absolutely. Okay, I pulled the page. You want to pick the quote? There's lots of them in this.
Okay.
That page.
Page 302. In the procession of images, the ones that take precedence naturally are those of the senses. Nevertheless, a present sense impression is only an image. It does not differ in nature from a memory. image or the image of a wish. What makes a present sense impression so objectively real is the individual's imagination functioning in it and thinking from it. Whereas in a memory, image, or a wish, the individual's imagination is not functioning in it and thinking from it, but is functioning out of it and thinking of it.
Ooh, that was a good one. That was a good one.
Wow. That is good. This is so different and a unique way, a little different for you guys than the tarot. And I think that that's so cool. It really gives you something to think about and ponder that you might not hear otherwise.
Yes. So, as we always talk about on this podcast, your subconscious mind, which controls your emotions and your actions, does not know the difference between dreams, imagination, and reality. So what Neville is saying in this little quote here is that when you're perceiving something as a dream versus the reality, you're living outside of it versus inside of it. So when you imagine something intentionally believing that it is, that it will become because you're living in it. Wow.
So good. So good. I love that.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us, for helping us raise the frequency. We love you so much. Please share this with your sisters, your mothers, your aunts, whoever it will help.
Yeah, even your partners, like the men in your life, like it's important for them to know these things too. So share it to everyone. Thank you guys so much, and we cannot wait to see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.